Here's the thing about desperation. It makes you do things you'd never consider on an ordinary Tuesday. For Luna Peter, desperation looked like grabbing the sleeve of a man she'd never met on a Friday night in Hongdae while her ex-husband hunted her through neon-lit streets. Was it reckless? Absolutely. But when you're out of safe choices, reckless starts looking like survival. 11:47 p.m. on a Friday, 6 blocks from her cramped apartment, her ex-husband Michael waited under a flickering street light, following her. Again. The restraining order had been denied. Insufficient evidence, they said. So when she saw the tall man in the custom black suit standing outside the sleek entrance to Azure Lounge, she didn't think. She just reached for him. "Please," she whispered, fingers trembling against expensive fabric. "Please, he's been following me and I'm scared." The stranger didn't pull away. His hand closed around hers, warm, steady, certain. "You are safe," he said quietly, Korean accent wrapping around the words like a promise. "I've got you." What Luna didn't know was that Park Do-ha had secrets of his own, dangerous ones, the kind marked in fierce ink on his neck and buried in sealed court records. But to understand why Luna made that choice, you need to know what her life looked like before that night. 3 years of surviving, not living, surviving. If you're new here, welcome, darling. Hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me where you're watching from. Now, enjoy the story. Luna was 32, an American expat working 60-hour weeks teaching English at 3 different hagwons across Seoul. One aging mother back in the States whose arthritis was worsening, one bank account that hemorrhaged money for international medical bills, and one ex-husband who refused to let an ocean stop him. Michael Smith, clean record, spotless reputation, and absolutely obsessed with making Luna's life hell. For 3 years, Luna had been running on empty. After rent for her shoebox studio in Gangnam-gu, utilities, her mother's medication, and the minimum payments on credit cards she'd maxed out fleeing to Seoul, she had maybe $300 left each month for everything else. She survived on convenience store kimbap, walked 40 minutes to save subway fare, skipped doctor's appointments she couldn't afford, felt like she was failing everyone who depended on her. But she kept going because her mother needed her, because starting over meant something, and because giving up wasn't an option. Then 6 months ago, everything got worse. Michael lost his promotion. His new girlfriend discovered his obsessive texts and left him. His therapist suggested he was fixating, and instead of accepting help, he bought a plane ticket to Seoul. Started showing up outside her hagwons, following her through crowded subway stations, sitting 3 tables away at the cafe where she graded papers, sending emails at 3 a.m. filing complaints with her employers about erratic behavior. The Seoul police couldn't help. No explicit threats in English they could verify, no physical contact, just a foreign woman's word against a polite American man with a tourist visa. Just terror. Slow, grinding, constant terror. Do-ha didn't let go of her hand. He turned, positioning himself between Luna and the flickering street light where Michael stood frozen, his face contorted with that familiar mix of rage and disbelief. For 3 years, Michael had owned her fear. Now, for the first time, someone else stood in his way. "You need to leave," Do-ha said, his voice low and unnervingly calm. Not a suggestion, a fact. Michael took a step forward, his mouth opening to launch into the usual tirade. How Luna was his wife, how she was confused, how this was all a misunderstanding. But something in Do-ha's stillness stopped him. The way he stood, immovable as stone, his expensive suit somehow making him look more dangerous, not less. "This isn't your business," Michael finally managed, his voice cracking at the edges. "It is now." Do-ha's grip on Luna's hand tightened slightly, grounding her. "Walk away." The standoff lasted maybe 10 seconds. To Luna, it felt like an hour. Then Michael's eyes darted between them, calculating, and he stepped back into the shadows. Not gone, never truly gone, but retreating. Do-ha guided Luna toward the curb where a sleek black Hongdae Avante waited, its driver already opening the rear door. The rain had started, light at first, then sudden and heavy, turning the neon lights of Hongdae into bleeding watercolor streaks. "Get in," Do-ha said gently, shielding her from the downpour with his jacket. I'll make sure you get home safely. Luna slid into the backseat, her whole body trembling now that the adrenaline was crashing. Do-ha leaned in to give the driver her address, and that's when the lightning flashed. Just for a second, brilliant white light cutting through the rain-dark street. And Luna saw it. The tattoo on his neck, partially hidden by his collar but unmistakable in that stark moment of illumination. A tiger, rendered in intricate black ink, mid-strike, fierce and beautiful and terrifying. The mark stretched from just below his jaw down to his collarbone, the kind of tattoo that wasn't decorative. It was declarative. The Beom-pae, the Tiger Clan. She'd heard the name before, whispered in expat forums and Korean language classes. Stay away from Gangnam after midnight. Don't ask questions about men with tiger tattoos. The Beom-pae don't forgive debts. Luna's breath caught. Do-ha must have noticed her starring because he straightened, his hand instinctively moving to his collar. Their eyes met. He didn't apologize, didn't explain, just held her gaze with something that looked almost like resignation. You should know what you're asking for, he said quietly, before you get in this car. Luna looked past him at the street where Michael's silhouette still lurked in the distance, waiting, watching, always watching. Then she looked back at Do-ha, at this stranger with a dangerous past and ink that told stories she probably didn't want to know. You said I was safe, she whispered. His expression softened. You are. And somehow, impossibly, Luna believed him, because those 3 words, you are safe, were the first comforting things anyone had said to her in 3 years. She didn't care about the tattoo. She didn't care about the rumors. She just needed them to be true. Luna settled back into the seat. Then let's go. The Gangnam police station smelled like instant coffee and resignation. Luna sat in the same plastic chair she'd occupied 4 times before, across from Officer Choi, who looked as tired of this conversation as she felt. Her Korean was decent enough to explain stalking, but apparently not persuasive enough to make them care. Has he threatened you directly? Officer Choi asked again, pen hovering over the same form they never seemed to complete. He follows me. He waits outside my apartment. Has he said he will hurt you, in specific words? Luna's hands clenched in her lap. No, but... Then there is no explicit threat. Officer Choi set down his pen with finality. In Korea, following someone is not illegal. You were married, yes. Maybe he wants to reconcile. This is personal matter, not police matter. He followed me across an ocean. That's not reconciliation, that's obsession. Officer Choi's expression didn't change. Without explicit threat or physical contact, we cannot issue restraining order. You understand? Bring evidence. Recording, witness, something concrete. Evidence, as if fear had a receipt. Luna left the station with the same helplessness she'd carried in, the Seoul afternoon sun doing nothing to warm the cold settling in her chest. Michael had a spotless record. No arrests, no complaints, no paper trail of the calculated torment he'd perfected over 3 years. On paper, he was a concerned ex-husband. She was a paranoid expat. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number, but the message was in perfect English. The offer still stands. If you need help, I meant what I said. PD. She stared at those initials. Park Do-ha, the man with the tiger on his neck. 20 minutes later, Luna stood outside a glass-fronted office building in Cheongdam-dong, the kind of sleek high-rise that screamed new money and legitimate enterprise. The lobby directory listed Beom Global Logistics, 14th floor in both Korean and English. She almost turned around 3 times in the elevator. Do-ha met her at the reception desk, looking nothing like the dangerous stranger from Friday night. Crisp white shirt, no jacket, the tiger tattoo carefully concealed. Behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering sprawl of Gangnam. Young professionals moved between glass-walled offices, their conversations a blend of Korean and international business English. You came, he said, something like relief crossing his face. I don't know why. Luna's voice was steadier than she felt. The police were useless, again. Do-ha gestured toward a private office. Come, let me explain what I can offer. Inside, he poured her tea with the careful precision of someone who'd learned manners the hard way. 5 years ago, this company didn't exist, he began. My father ran the Beom-pae the old way. Protection rackets, gambling dens, things I'm not proud of. I have arrests on my record. Assault charges, association with convicted felons. Luna's teacup paused halfway to her lips. But I walked away, bought out my father's legitimate holdings, went clean, built this. He gestured at the office around them. Real contracts, real clients, international shipping routes, legal, audited, boring. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know what you're asking for. Duha's dark eyes held hers. Your ex-husband has a clean record. I have a complicated past. But records don't tell you who shows up when someone's scared, who makes you safe versus who makes you afraid. Luna set down her tea. The police don't care about behavior. They care about documentation. I know. That's why I can help in ways they can't. His voice was quiet but certain. The question is whether you trust me enough to let me try. For 2 weeks, Luna didn't see Michael. She noticed the protection before she noticed the man providing it. A black Hongdae Avante that appeared whenever she left her apartment. A quiet figure in the cafe across from her Hagwon. Small things that should have felt invasive, but instead felt like breathing room. Duha called it discreet security. Luna called it the first full night's sleep she'd had in months. They met for dinner on a Thursday evening at a small restaurant tucked into a side street in Gangnam, the kind of place with no English menu and only 8 tables. Duha was already seated when she arrived, his jacket draped over the chair back, sleeves rolled to his elbows. The tiger's tail was visible now, curling just past his wrist. You're starring, he said without looking up from the menu. Luna felt heat rise to her cheeks. Sorry, I'm still getting used to all of this. All of what? The tattoo or the fact that I'm helping you? Both. He smiled, small and genuine, and it transformed his face entirely. Order whatever you want. The galbi here is perfect. They ate in comfortable near silence, the kind that didn't need filling. Luna couldn't remember the last time a meal felt this normal. No looking over her shoulder, no calculating exit routes, no Michael's shadow poisoning everything. Why are you doing this? She asked finally, setting down her chopsticks. Duha was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the condensation on his water glass. I had a sister, younger. Her name was Haewon. The past tense landed heavy between them. She was 18 when she started dating a man my father did business with. Older, respectable family, clean background. Everything looked right on paper. His jaw tightened. But he hurt her, controlled her, isolated her from us, and when she finally tried to leave him, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. I'm so sorry, Luna whispered. My father did nothing, said it was a private matter that we couldn't interfere without causing problems for business. Duha's voice was flat, controlled, but his knuckles were white around the glass. She died believing no one would help her, that she deserved it somehow. Luna's throat constricted. After that, I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't be part of an empire that valued reputation over people. That's when I started dismantling everything my father built, the dishonorable parts. The parts that let men like him operate without consequences. He finally met her eyes. So when I see someone being followed, being terrorized by a man with a spotless record, I don't see a stranger. I see my sister, and I refuse to do nothing. Luna felt something crack open in her chest. The kind of recognition that happens when someone truly sees your fear and doesn't look away. You're not doing nothing, she said softly. You're the only person who's shown up. Duha reached across the table, his hand covering hers. Warm, steady, certain. Then I'll keep showing up, he said simply, for as long as you need me to. For the first time in 3 years, Luna believed safety might be more than just a fantasy. It might be the man sitting across from her, with ink-stained history and hands that had learned how to protect instead of harm. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Luna found it slipped under her apartment door when she came home from teaching. No return address, just her name typed on the front in cold, impersonal font. Inside were photocopies. Police reports from 2019 and 2020. Arrest records with Duha's name and photo. Charges for assault, association with known criminals, operating an illegal gambling establishment. And a note in Michael's handwriting. This is who you're trusting with your safety. I'm trying to protect you from yourself. Her hands shook so badly, the pages scattered across the floor. Duha had told her about his past, but seeing it documented like this, official stamps, court dates, mugshots, made it real in a way conversation hadn't. Michael had hired someone, a private investigator who dug through Seoul court records, pulled files, built a case. Not to help her, to bury her. The second envelope came 3 days later, this one official. Seoul Immigration Office letterhead, her alien registration number printed at the top. Dear Ms. Peter, we have received a formal complaint regarding your conduct and associations during your residency in the Republic of Korea. You are required to appear for a hearing on. Luna's vision blurred. She read it twice, then a third time, the words rearranging themselves into a nightmare. Michael had filed a report claiming she was cohabitating with a known criminal, that her judgment was impaired, that her visa should be reviewed for public safety concerns. He'd attached Duha's criminal history, surveillance photos of them at the restaurant, timestamps of the black Hongdae Avante outside her apartment. He was trying to get her deported, trying to force her back to the States, back into his reach. The walls of her tiny studio felt like they were closing in. Duha found her 4 days later in the same restaurant where they'd shared galbi, except now Luna looked like a shadow of herself. She'd lost weight she didn't have to lose, dark circles carved deep beneath her eyes. Her students had asked if she was sick. She'd lied and said jet lag, even though she'd lived in Seoul for 3 years. I can't eat, she said when he sat down, her voice hollow. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see myself on a plane back to the US and Michael waiting at the airport. That won't happen. You don't know that? Her laugh was brittle, broken. He's weaponizing you. Your past, your record, everything you told me in confidence. The immigration office thinks I'm some naive woman being manipulated by a gangster. Duha's jaw tightened. What did your lawyer say? That it's complicated. That associating with someone with your background doesn't look good. That if they decide I'm a risk, they can revoke my visa. Luna's hands trembled around her water glass. I came here to escape him, and now he's using the system to drag me back. He always finds a way. Then we find a better one. There is no better way. The words came out sharper than she intended, 3 years of exhaustion and fear finally spilling over. He has a clean record, Duha. You don't. That's all they'll see. Duha was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low and devastatingly calm. Then let me disappear. Luna's head snapped up. What? If I'm the problem, I'll remove myself. Completely. No contact, no protection, nothing that ties us together. His eyes held hers, unflinching. I won't be the reason you lose everything. Luna refused to let Duha disappear. They'd spent the last week preparing for the immigration hearing, gathering character references, documentation of Duha's legitimate business. It felt like building a wall out of paper against a hurricane, but it was something. Action instead of paralysis. They were leaving a late dinner in Gangnam when Michael found them. Luna. The voice cut through the evening crowd like a blade. Luna's entire body went rigid, her hand instinctively clutching Duha's arm. She didn't need to turn around to know. 3 years had trained her to recognize that tone, the one that sounded concerned to strangers but promised consequences to her. Michael stood 20 feet away in his leather jacket, phone raised and recording, his face twisted in what he probably thought looked like anguished concern. Pedestrians were already slowing, phones out, turning a private nightmare into a public spectacle. Luna, please. Michael's voice cracked perfectly, Oscar-worthy. Just talk to me. I came all this way because I'm worried about you. Duha stepped in front of her without a word, his body a wall between her and the man who'd haunted her across an ocean. Luna felt his muscles tense beneath his suit jacket, controlled and immovable. Step back, Duha said quietly. I'm talking to my wife. Ex-wife, Luna managed, her voice barely steady. We've been divorced for 3 years, Michael. Because he's manipulating you. Michael gestured wildly at Duha, making sure his phone caught every angle. Do you even know who he is, what he's done? I have police records, Luna, assault, organized crime, and you're, living with him, letting him control you. The only person who ever controlled me was you, Luna said, and felt Duha's hand find hers, grounding her. Michael's mask slipped for just a second, rage flashing in his eyes before the concerned ex-husband expression snapped back into place. I'm trying to save you. From him. From yourself. The immigration office agrees with me. The immigration office received a complaint from a stalker. Duha cut in, his voice deadly calm. Which is what you are. A man who followed his ex-wife to another country, who waits outside her home, who files false reports to force her back into your control. I have rights. You have restraining orders being filed in 3 jurisdictions. Duha took a single step forward, and despite being roughly the same height, he seemed to tower over Michael. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to delete that video. You're going to leave, and you're not going to contact Luna again. Michael's laugh was sharp, theatrical. Or what? You'll have your gangster friends hurt me. I'm recording this, threatening a U.S. citizen. That'll look great at her hearing. I'm not threatening you. Duha's voice dropped lower, quieter, and somehow infinitely more dangerous. I'm making you a promise. You won't be dealing with the police anymore. You'll be dealing with me. And unlike the system you've learned to manipulate, I don't need explicit threats to recognize a predator. The air between them crackled with tension. Luna felt her heart hammering against her ribs, felt Duha's hand tighten protectively around hers. Michael's phone wavered. For the first time since Seoul, Luna saw something flicker across his face that wasn't calculation or control. Fear. This isn't over, Michael said, backing away, still filming. Yes, Duha replied. It is. The Seoul family court hearing room was smaller than Luna expected, sterile and fluorescent bright, with none of the drama of American courtrooms she'd seen on TV. Just a long table, uncomfortable chairs, and Judge Patricia Williams, a British expat who'd been adjudicating international cases in Seoul for 15 years. Michael's lawyer was a sharp-dressed Korean woman named Ms. Lim, who spoke perfect English, and had clearly been paid well to dismantle Luna's life. Ms. Peter, she began, her tone professionally sympathetic, can you confirm that you are currently in a romantic relationship with Park Duha? Luna's hands clenched beneath the table. Yes. And were you aware, when you began this relationship, of Mr. Park's criminal history? He told me himself. He's been transparent about. So you knowingly entered into a relationship with a man who has arrest records for assault and documented ties to organized crime. Ms. Lim didn't wait for an answer. Your Honor, we're not questioning Ms. Peters' right to choose her relationships. We're questioning whether her judgment has been compromised by fear, trauma, and potential coercion. Objection. Luna's lawyer, Mr. Suck, stood. Ms. Peter is not on trial here. No, but her safety is our concern. Ms. Lim pulled out a folder thick with documents. Mr. Smith filed this complaint out of genuine concern for his ex-wife, who fled to Korea in what he describes as a mental health crisis, and has since attached herself to a man with documented violent tendencies. Luna felt sick. They were twisting everything. Her escape became a breakdown. Duha's protection became manipulation. Ms. Peter, Judge Williams interjected, I need to ask you directly. Do you feel safe with Mr. Park? Yes. Luna's voice was steady despite her shaking hands. He's the only person who's made me feel safe in 3 years. Even knowing his history. Especially knowing his history. Luna met the judge's eyes. Because he told me himself. He didn't hide it. Unlike my ex-husband, who hid his obsession behind a perfect reputation until I married him. Ms. Lim shuffled her papers. Your Honor, we have witness statements that Mr. Park has made threatening remarks to Mr. Smith. He promised to protect me, Luna interrupted. That's not a threat. That's the only honest thing anyone said in this whole process. The hearing lasted 2 more hours. Invasive questions about where Do-ha slept, how often they saw each other, whether he'd ever been violent toward her. Each question felt like a scalpel cutting deeper into her dignity. During the recess, Do-ha found her in the hallway, his face unreadable. "I meant what I said before," he told her quietly. "If this is what it takes, if me disappearing means you keep your visa, your life here, I'll do it. Tonight, you'll never see me again." Luna's chest tightened. "No." "Luna." "No." Her voice was fierce now, 3 years of running crystallizing into something harder. "That's exactly what Michael wants, to isolate me, to make me so afraid that I push away anyone who helps me. I won't do it. I won't let fear win anymore. This could cost you everything." "So could letting you go." Luna grabbed his hand. "You showed up when no one else did. You don't get to sacrifice yourself now just because the system is broken." Do-ha's expression cracked, something raw and grateful breaking through. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." When Do-ha took the stand, the courtroom seemed to shrink around him. He wore a simple navy suit, no tie, the tiger tattoo visible just above his collar. He'd stopped hiding it 3 days ago. If they were going to judge him, Luna realized, he wanted them to see everything. "Mr. Park," Judge Williams began, adjusting her glasses, "you've heard the allegations. That you're a danger to Ms. Peter, that your criminal history makes you unsuitable as a protective figure. What do you say to that?" Do-ha's voice was calm, measured. "I don't deny my past, Your Honor. I was arrested twice for assault between 2019 and 2020. I was involved with my family's organization, which had connections to illegal activities. Those are facts." Ms. Lim looked satisfied. Michael leaned forward in his seat. "But," Do-ha continued, "I've spent the last 5 years building something different. I bought out my father's legitimate holdings. I created a legal business with real employees, real contracts, audited finances. I walked away from the world I was raised in because I watched it destroy someone I loved." "Your sister," Judge Williams said softly, glancing at the brief. "Yes, she died because men with clean records can hide their violence behind respectability, because the system protects reputation over behavior." His eyes found Luna's across the room. "When I met Ms. Peter, I saw that same terror. The kind that comes from being hunted by someone everyone else thinks is harmless. I couldn't walk away from that. I won't apologize for showing up when no one else would." The silence that followed was heavy with consideration. Then Luna's lawyer called her to the stand. Her legs felt unsteady as she walked to the front, but her voice was clear when she spoke. "Ms. Peter," Mr. Suck said gently, "in your own words, why do you feel safe with Mr. Park?" Luna took a breath. "Because I'm judging safety by behavior, not background checks. Michael has a spotless record, no arrests, no complaints, nothing that would raise red flags. But he followed me across an ocean. He waits outside my home. He weaponizes the legal system to control me. That's his behavior." She looked directly at Judge Williams now. "Do-ha has a complicated past, but his behavior has been nothing but protective. He told me the truth about who he was. He gave me space to make my own choices. He offered to walk away if it meant keeping me safe. That's not control. That's respect." "And you believe Mr. Smith poses a genuine threat to you?" "I know he does. He's proven it every day for 3 years. The only difference is that he's learned how to make his stalking look like concern." Luna's voice strengthened. "I'm asking this court to judge people by who shows up versus who causes harm, because if we only look at records, we miss the truth." Judge Williams took 7 days to issue her ruling. When the decision came, Luna was teaching a class on past tense verbs when Mr. Suck called. She stepped into the hallway, her heart hammering. "The judge ruled in your favor," he said, and Luna felt her knees weaken. "She found no credible evidence that Mr. Park poses a danger to you. She's granting a permanent restraining order against Mr. Smith, effective immediately. If he violates it, he'll be deported and banned from re-entry." Luna slid down the wall, phone pressed to her ear, tears streaming down her face. "Your visa is secure," Mr. Suck continued. "You're staying in Seoul." For the first time in 3 years, Luna could breathe. 3 years later, Luna barely recognized the woman she'd been. She had a permanent teaching position at an international school in Gangnam, health insurance that actually covered her mother's medications, and an apartment with windows that faced the morning sun. Michael was a closed chapter. He'd violated the restraining order once, spent 3 days in Seoul detention, and never returned. The last she'd heard, he was living in Oregon, finally in therapy, finally someone else's concern. Luna had stopped looking over her shoulder 18 months ago. Do-ha had insisted on celebrating her work anniversary, though he'd been cryptic about the details. "Dress warm," was all he'd said, "and trust me." Now they stood at Seoul Tower just as the sun began its descent, the sky turning shades of gold and amber that made the sprawling city below look like it was dipped in honey. Tourists clustered around the Lovelock fence, couples taking selfies, the air filled with a dozen languages and the soft chime of the tower bells. "You know," Luna said, leaning against the railing, "I used to think Seoul was just a hiding place, somewhere to run to. And now it's home," she smiled at him. "You made it home." Do-ha was quiet for a moment, his hand covering hers on the railing. The tiger tattoo was visible today, as it always was now. He'd stopped hiding it the day the verdict came through. It was part of his story, not his present. "Luna." His voice had a quality she'd never heard before, something nervous and hopeful and terrified all at once. She turned to find him on one knee. Time seemed to suspend itself. The golden hour light caught in his dark eyes, the city stretched endlessly behind him, and Luna's heart stopped and started and stopped again. "3 years ago, you grabbed my arm outside a lounge in Hongdae," Do-ha said, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "You were out of safe choices, and you gambled on a stranger. You trusted me when you had no reason to." "Do-ha, let me finish." He pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple platinum band. No diamonds, no ostentation, just clean lines and honest metal. "You are the bravest person I've ever known. You chose to trust again after everything that taught you not to. You stood in a courtroom and defended someone everyone said you should fear. You turned running into staying." Tears were already streaming down Luna's face. "I'm not asking you to save me or fix me. I'm asking if you'll build something with me, something new, something ours." His hand trembled slightly. "Luna Peter, will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out before she could think, before she could breathe. "Yes, absolutely yes." The ring slid onto her finger like it had always belonged there. Do-ha stood, pulling her into his arms, and Luna buried her face against his chest, feeling his heart pound in time with hers. Around them, strangers applauded. Someone shouted congratulations in Korean. The tower bells chimed the hour. Later, people would ask Luna if she ever regretted that midnight gamble in Hongdae, reaching for a stranger with a dangerous past and an uncertain future. The answer was simple. She'd do it again in a heartbeat, because some gambles don't just save your life. They give you one worth living. And the stranger who promised, "You are safe," had become the home she'd been searching for all along. Really, truly, finally home. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves powerful mafia stories like this. Your support truly means a lot and helps this channel grow. See you in the next story.